I'm Calan White with Spirit Home Renovations, and I'm here with Toner Home Matters. Thank you for being here.
Good, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you run a building forensics company. Can you kind of expound on that a little bit?
Sure. So we're a building performance company, and we really do one of three things. We're either there at the beginning of a project, so new build, remodel, modification, like if you're replacing all the windows, all the AC, or changing your envelope from brick to stucco, to design that project to perform properly in light of three things: the climate, the construction, and the client. So because of that, when we're on a project, we are the resident experts in HVAC, insulation, windows, walls, sheathing, roofing, flooring, attic assembly, foundation assembly, building envelope, drainage plane, dissipation plane, indoor air standards, indoor health standards, microclimate standards, microgeneration standards, just to name a few. But how everything comes together as a total system. So that's a third of our business. The other third is we do building performance forensics, going to houses that are misbehaving. And especially here in Kingwood, we see a lot of this because our houses are modifying over time and the climate is different now than it was when they originally built. So we come in and look at moisture issues, mold issues, performance issues, comfort issues, health issues, and figure out why is it happening, explaining it clearly, and then making a path and a plan to go forward. And then the third part is we do building performance litigation support. When everyone's upset with everyone or there's a failure and they can't figure it out, we try to help settle all that stuff pre-litigation. But in many cases, we're there to support builders and homeowners and trades through that process. So we're on pretty much every project. You just got to determine what part you want me there on.
So what qualifies you as an expert in this field? I mean, that's a big realm of things.
It is. So I've been doing this for quite some time. I'm an investigative journalist by trade.
Okay.
So I've always had a hunger to understand the story and to communicate it back. And that's really what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm understanding the story of the project and how it's going to behave and communicating it effectively back for the clients and for the builders and all of the trades. But I really earned my way into this business. Fortunately, because I've been here in Houston, we are the point of the spear in terms of climate migration. This is the most difficult place to build a house. I'm going to tell all your clients, don't live here.
Right?
Leave Houston. Head north, right? It's just a very hot, wet area. And we have a lot of builders and remodelers that don't deliver a quality product, not because they're trying to be malicious. They just don't know any different or any better. And what I bring to a table is not required by code. So they have to elect to do better. But here's the end result. Every homeowner expected their builder to do better.
Sure.
It's it's that uncommunicated expectation. And if you don't materialize that into the project, it doesn't turn out very well.
So when would be the best time for a homeowner to call you? When they start the project and
Yeah, so we have a lot of homeowners call us in the middle at the forensics because problems are occurring, right?
Sure.
We really are relying on our very good designers and architects and builders, that what I call the top 10% of that product, right? So a remodeler has to elect to say, hey, this is part of our process. Or a builder has to say, Toner's on every one of our projects. Or the architect says, this is what we do. We are design stage. On the front end. We are very, very early.
Right.
If you're going to do a remodel, I want to walk the remodel before you even think about what you're going to do, because I need to see how the house is behaving originally and then go forward. And a lot of our clients, they haven't even moved in the house yet, right? They bought the home and they're about to do a remodel, so they don't have the historic knowledge of performance. So the earlier, the better, I always say.
So would you work with an architect and a builder specifically to spec out materials that are going to be best performing for the home?
Correct. So we'd like to first establish what the performance criteria is, the expectation, and then we design the specifications to meet that. Our average architectural specification book, which is our guiding document, is about 230 line items in order to accomplish this. Now, those line items are divided across 30 trades. So it's not one person has to consume it all, but we do have to verify that the trades understand this, and then we're here to ensure that it happens. Our remodeler and our builder and our clients, they're not. We do our own work. So I'm an adult. I can do my own stuff. So, and that's important because you don't want to make this a burden. This should be a benefit.
Right.
But if we tell our clients, if you never know what I did in your house, I did a good job, because there's nothing wrong.
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
So most of these homes that like we're remodeling, they've got, things from like 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So how do you blend that with modern building materials and design to
function right? It's interesting. I personally have a specialization in historic home performance, and I travel around the United States working on significant historic homes. And we have an office on Galveston Island in the East End Historic District for that reason. So a 1970 house is a predictable one. I know how it was built in the 70s, and I know how they have behaved going forward, and that we're always working to the lowest common denominator. So, for instance, if I have a brick assembly from 1970 and it's pretty much north of 1960 in Houston, then I know I'm going to have a masonry board, and that masonry board material is going to be between the brick and the stud frame. And most likely it's only going to be damaged at the bottom course of bricks, because that's where the mortar accumulates.
Right.
So if I go into the structure and I see that all of the baseboards are swollen, and I go around the outside, and I will know, okay, that's coming from the mortar accumulation. But what do we do about that? I don't need to demo the entire wall to fix that. And I don't even need to do it from the inside. I could do it from the outside. But what do we have in 1970s baseboard? They're normally 2 3/4 inches high. But you all are going to go back with
something
6 inch.
Yeah, 5, 6 inch, something bigger. Yeah.
So if you're going to go back with 6-inch base, I'm going to write a spec for you to cut out only 5.5 inches of drywall, so that we can cut it out. I can remove the mortar. I can fix the wall all within that 5-inch space. And you can put in 6-inch base, and you don't have to paint the wall.
That's amazing.
So that's because I understand how it was originally built, where we need to go with it. And I'm trying to be stewards of our clients' funds. I don't want to just have to repaint every single room in the house because we're trying to correct a moisture issue.
So would someone that's living in their existing home, would they have a lot of benefit from calling you right now?
They would, especially if they know, most people know they have challenges. They're aware that, hey, this room smells musty every summer, or we keep installing these flooring and it keeps warping. They know these things, but life is busy. If you have kids and your attention is other places, you can live through a lot of stuff. I remember the first carpet that I installed in my house, I did not replace it until my kids were 13, and I didn't notice it was dirty until they were 13 because I was busy with 2 little kids,
raising
right?
them, yeah.
Even though we were on the ground playing every single day, I was like, oh my gosh, this carpet looks horrible. It's just life.
Right.
And what's interesting about Kingwood in particular is we really are seeing this full turnover in some of the original owners. I still have one original owner on my street. I live here in Kingwood too. And when that one goes, that's the last OG, right? So those homes, in many cases, need a lot of updating. We have a lot of things, like a lot of paneling. We have conglolium, chopped marble. Thank God chopped marble's coming back in, right? Like that's a thing to do. So I like to embrace some of the original and make it better, but we also don't want to take it too far.
Sure. Yeah. So do you know of any products and materials that are up and coming, or that you use frequently, that are really doing well as far as performance?
Yeah. So we've had a lot of homes, especially on the second floor. We have a lot of 2-stories here that we're addressing the overall indoor air quality. Well, when we have a ventilated attic assembly, that hot, wet air is coming in through the attic, and the moisture dissipates through the ceiling. So one of the biggest attributors to poor indoor air quality is that moisture is going through decades and decades of old glass insulation and rat and roach poop, and it's nasty. And I go into beautifully remodeled homes, and the attics are absolutely archaic. And it's not a lot of money for us to get in there and to vacuum out everything and to clean that space. And in many of those times, I will actually convert them so that we do not have that hot, wet air filtering through the structure anymore. And it resets that structure.
Wow.
And it makes it, I can almost outperform the most common new build structures with a good remodel on an existing structure.
Wow.
So, and it reduces AC capacities. We can, in many cases, lose a second AC system. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So what is something that you see that clients do that they think would be really great that doesn't end up performing well?
Yeah, the small add-on where they think they're just going to be able to pull air conditioning from the existing system.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a big mistake. Additionally, replacing only a few windows versus all the windows. And I'll give you a good example. The little diamond leaded window that's in the dining area or the front entry, and they want to keep that one window.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all the new replacement windows, they meet what's called the NFRC standard, National Fenestration Rating Council standard, which is an energy code criteria.
Right.
And they are fully hermetically sealed windows all the way through the frame. So when I punch out all these old 1970s windows or 1980s windows or even 90s windows, and I replace them, I've changed the pressure differentiation.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of that air pressure is limited, and it's going to be looking for another place to move through the structure. It doesn't cancel itself out. So if you left that one deco window, the decorative window is what we call it, it's going to just saturate it. So I went to a structure here in Kingwood about 2 weeks ago, in between the holidays actually, and it's completely rusted on the inside.
Oh.
So now they have to address that, but they also just did a beautiful paint job on this dining room. It's like this cool navy blue, super sexy.
Yeah.
But it's going to get totally wrecked. And with dark paint, you can't just come back and touch it up.
Oh, no.
It's like you have to repaint the whole space.
Yes. That hurts here.
That hurts my heart.
It hurts me.
Which if we had been there originally, the window specifications would have been part of my criteria, and I would have had that conversation with the clients.
So what are a couple of things that you see that can make homes more comfortable?
I think that especially in a remodel, just the basic control methodology. So all the way up into even some AC contractors now, they put the thermostat near the return in the hallway. The problem is that hallway is dark and cool.
Mm-hmm.
We like to call it the millennial hallway. It thinks it's awesome, and it's actually not. So
the millennium.
Right?
I love it.
But it gives it this idea that it's a satisfied thermostat. So when you want 74, 72 degrees in the living room, the thermostat is already thinking it's at 70 degrees. So what do? You go and turn that thermostat down to 68 degrees to try to drive the air into that other space. So we like to remove that thermostat, which I'm a big fan of creating art walls. So this long open hallway wall, I don't want a thermostat in the middle of it.
Sure.
First off, it's ugly. And I actually don't hang thermostats in any of our houses anymore. They're all concealed.
Oh, okay.
So this leads us into that prophecy. So I would take that thermostat, and for the time being, if you're not going through a big remodel, I would change it to probably an Ecobee Pro. And it's real important that we use the term Pro.
Okay.
When you buy a Nest from Home Depot or Lowe's or Ecobee, those are not professional grade thermostats. So they have a 4-degree sensitivity. Pro is a 1-degree sensitivity.
Yeah, that's a big range.
You're only as good as the information you provide the system. But I would buy a 3-sensor pack, and they're wireless sensors. And I would put the sensor in the living room, in the primary bedroom, not in the kitchen, because that's a bad idea when you're cooking. You make your AC system, but in those areas where you're living.
Right.
They even have a belt clip. If you want to put it on your belt, you can walk around with the sensor on you.
Oh my goodness!
But the sensors also acknowledge proximity, that people are in the room. So that right-hand side of the house where you have the primary suite at one end and 3 other bedrooms. I could put a sensor in every single bedroom and disable the sensing at the hallway. And then it will know by who's in what room and make those the priority. And if all rooms are full, it averages the temperature across.
Wow.
So better information in is better productivity out.
Sure. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you see that people think is going to be great, but it actually causes more damage?
So the IKEA cabinet it just kills me, right? So let's look at what an IKEA cabinet is.
I have some clients that ask for that.
Okay, and you know what? You go to IKEA and they do a good job
of
making the smallest kitchens ever look good.
Yes.
Right? Like they are micro kitchens.
Right.
I think Danish people must be tiny, right? Like I don't understand. There's a Swedish, I can't remember which one it is, but they're very, very manufactured, and the fact that the quality of the materials is masked by a very heavy gauge of laminate, and laminate is plastic. So they install these cabinets up against exterior walls. Well, in the South, or in this climate zone especially, we have to be very conscious of what we put against the inside of an exterior wall, because hot, wet air transfuses through the wall assembly. These houses do not have air barriers, moisture barriers, thermal barriers, or vapor barriers. So when you put a plastic cabinet up against an exterior wall, it'll trap that water vapor, it will condense. And I've removed more moldy, nasty IKEA cabinetry, but also you can be misled by some higher grade looking cabinets. The quality of a cabinet is determined not by the face, but by the box.
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely. Because we can all replace faces on cabinets all day long. And that's why sometimes you can go into some of these older structures that had really high quality site-built cabinets and you can reface them. But then you lose some of the internal functionalities, right? Like the slow close hinges, slow close drawers, the hidden hinges. And you spend so much time and effort modifying them that you would have been better off
just getting a new.
But if you do new with another quality box system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we talk about like air quality and airflow and stuff, do you feel like the thermostat would be, the best bang for your buck, or what do you see?
Really, it's about the AC system originally was not designed with any kind of math. Math actually wasn't required. Math wasn't required on air conditioning until 3 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of like to use math. Math and science are my friends. So I think first off is understanding what you can do with your air conditioning system. Most houses built even today, unless they're hiring someone like us, and there's not a lot of people who do what we do, you can't air condition the house under 74 degrees because the envelope is not designed to manage that. Now, one thing you can do to feel more comfortable is letting the air conditioning be air conditioning, cooling and heating, and then having a separate dehumidification design. Because if I can give you 74 degrees at 55% relative humidity, it's going to feel like 72.3 on your skin. And you know how lately it's not been hot enough to turn on the AC, not been warm enough to turn on the heat,
right?
And all of the humidity has been really high in our structures, right? So then you have to go drive your AC down and everyone bundles up. So we like to design our structures to manage all of that separately. And we're in the most humid climate.
Yeah.
And yet we are literally the same climate zone as Cuba. So, but we don't have all the 1950s cars and all that kind of stuff. So, and they build with CMU block assemblies there that they would never build a stick house in Cuba.
Right.
They would laugh at you. That's going to fall apart. Well, like we do it every single day.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about mold for a second. Like, where do you see mold coming from? What is the major cause of mold? I mean, that's something we get called about all the time.
Yeah. A lot of them they're mold now versus mold, let's say 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I have clients and on a very regular basis, they go, we never had this problem before. And I totally understand why you didn't have this problem before. We are hotter and wetter now than we ever were before. And it's not necessarily during the day, it's at nighttime. We need to be at 82% relative humidity at night. So all the stored and moisture energy in our assemblies will radiate outside. We don't have that anymore. We are greater than 60 days every summer where we don't get underneath 82% relative humidity. So we're literally twice as wet as we used to be. Why does Austin not have the same problems as Houston? Because they dry out at night. Now that's deteriorating because Bastrop is basically a suburb of Houston at this point.
Oh, wow.
They're behaving just like Houston. It's following that climate zone. I just won a new job in Southern Virginia this week because they are experiencing the same problems that I resolved in structures 15 years ago in Houston, just now in Virginia. That's all pushing forward.
I see. So do you see that something in older homes, like is this improperly designed ACs, or are there?
I don't like to use the term improper because that is assuming they knew what was proper.
Okay.
Right? They just don't have the information. I have never had an air conditioning contractor, insulator, or anyone not say, oh, that's a great idea, let me do it. They don't fight back against it.
Sure.
Most of them will hire us to teach them how to do these things. The only place I really get pushback are from builders and remodelers because their business model, they can't understand or how to utilize this kind of information, right? If they're just sending over their proposal and it has one big old price on it, they don't even have the details to be able to consume what we're giving them. Then homeowners will hire us to come on board and help manage through that, but I'm not going to fist fight for them.
Sure.
I will let them know, hey, you probably made a bad decision here. Let's try to mitigate that and do the best we can with what we're presented with. So my biggest struggle, and has been for almost 15 years, is the non-utilization of our specifications by a unwilling contractor.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Now, you mentioned working in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You said Minnesota.
We've done some work in Minnesota, a lot of work in Colorado, Virginia, the Carolinas is very popular for us. Hotlanta. We're in Hotlanta. Big old giant houses in Hotlanta, and that's a very much more humid climate. And of course, the Gulf Coast, Florida work, Southern Alabama, Mississippi, and then all over Texas.
Sure.
But we have an office on Galveston Island. I also love Galveston Island, but our theory is if I can make a home work on Galveston Island, I've got everywhere else licked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyone from the nation can give you a call. You can help them, and
most definitely. Houston is still the hotbed of this, but we are seeing more and more. And also, Houston's such a diverse market that there are folks that we've worked with in Houston that now live in other parts of the United States, and they hire us. Additionally, here in Kingwood especially, we do a lot of what are called forensic real estate reviews. When someone's about to buy a home, a track inspection doesn't see what I see.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason why people don't invite me to parties. I'm like, no fun. They're like, okay, you can stay in the entry, don't walk anywhere else in my house. But we will do forensic real estate reviews, and we identify those performance criteria now, and then have a conversation with the buyer about what they plan on doing with it so they can fully understand what they're about to get into.
That's awesome.
So we do that a lot here in Kingwood.
Yeah, I bet that helps out a lot.
Yeah.
So what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I'm the easiest person ever to find online. I'm the only toner on the internet. That is my first name. It's also the name of my company. So you could Google Toner Home Matters. You'll find us. It's really easy to get in touch with us. We do everything with a personal conversation. We don't use any bots or anything like that. And most of the time you will talk to me. I spend the vast majority of my day doing the intake on people interested in working with us, because everyone has a story and it's so diverse. And we try to be good stewards of our clients' time and money from the instance that we meet with them. So there are many cases where they come in, they have an issue, but I would pass it off to someone else first.
Sure.
Say, hey, why don't you use this person first? Because we're not the cheapest, but that doesn't mean I don't want to help. So if we find instances where we may not be appropriate right now, we will bring them on another solution. I always want them to leave with something after they've talked to us. Sure,
absolutely. Well, that's awesome. And I think that says a lot about you and your business model to be wanting to service others and help others and not just here to make a buck.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're part of the community that we live in, right? And especially up here, this is, we are a peninsula, right? We are surrounded by water on basically three sides.
Yeah.
They call it the Kingwood bubble for a reason. But we experience this in the bubbles, the Woodlands bubbles, the Bel Air bubble. They all have their own sense of community. And the great thing about Houston, it's the biggest small town in Texas. Everyone knows everyone.
That's true.
When you have an unusual name, Calan, you're like people remember us.
I know. We're easy to find. It's a blessing and a curse, though, isn't it?
It is. It forces you to you got to stay on task all the time. And it's easy for someone to say, I love Toner or I hate Toner because they remember Toner.
Yes.
Right. So we try to do the best job we can with every opportunity. And I think we've done a good job of delivering this for about 15 years.
Good. Well, I'll definitely link all of Toner's information in the bottom of the video. Make sure you guys have all of his contact information, and we appreciate you watching and staying tuned.
Great. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much.